fantastic. So the paperwork's all done?
Yeah, we just need to discuss a few points. And CJ turned out okay.
Welcome to this edition of the Guest Team Guide to Buying and Selling a Home.
Today we are going to interview a home inspector, Brian Sheehy from Pillar to Post.
Well, a professionally trained home inspector is going to carry errors and omission insurance. They've had training to cover just about any topic that you want to see in the house. You know, the average Joe out there just doesn't know what he needs to know. Doesn't have the equipment to test everything they need to test, and they haven't had the training or the experience to know what needs to be done. So the 5 major areas that we try to cover are roof, structure, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical. But we're looking for age and condition of the shingles, soffits, eaves troughs. We're looking at the number of roof vents, types of chimneys, condition of chimneys, and we try to give people an idea of what's coming down the pipes at them from a life expectancy standpoint. When we look at structure, there's more than just the foundation. The foundation is one of the major points, but we're looking at beams, support posts, floor joists. In the attic, we're looking at either the trusses or the rafters. People often want to know, is this a load-bearing wall? Can I move this wall? Those types of things. So everything has structure to it. Some of it's open and obvious, and some of it's hidden. In most cases, old homes have structure problems because they're old. Newer homes have structure problems because people have made improper modifications. They've taken a support post out of the basement because they want to open up their rec room and put a pool table or something in. UFI and asbestos, we don't use them in modern construction. UFI was banned in Canada in the early 1980s. UFI was a spray foam insulation that was installed, and there were actually government grants to have people install it. And they would do it on old brick homes. They would drill holes into the outside walls and inject basically a spray foam insulation that almost looks like dried shaving cream when it's installed. The trouble with UFI is there was off-gassing issues. The actual ban was lifted in Europe and the States shortly after, but in Canada it's a problem because it's still a banned substance, so we're not allowed to use it anymore. Now, asbestos products were used right up until about 1980 before it was banned, and there's all kinds of different areas that you have to look at. Heating duct insulators, there's different types of asbestos like vermiculite that might have asbestos in it. Sometimes stipple ceilings, old floor tiles, ceiling tiles, even caulking, siding, things like that. Even old shingles can have asbestos. But in most cases, there's a few things you can look at and say, well, that's asbestos. But in most cases, if you want to know for sure, you take a sample and you have it sent off to a lab and have it analyzed. So vermiculite itself is not asbestos, but a large proportion of the world's vermiculite supply was mined in Libby, Montana, and it's also the world's largest asbestos mine. So it's often contaminated with asbestos. But nobody can look at asbestos, or vermiculite I should say, and tell you that's got asbestos in it, because there's 2 or 3 different types. Basically what you need to do to know for sure is you take a sample, and there's a sampling procedure. You have to take a sample from 3 specific areas of the attic that are a certain distance apart. You send it off to a lab and they analyze it under a microscope. It takes a couple of days, and they'll let you know whether there's any asbestos present or not. Because if there's no asbestos present in the vermiculite, it's actually a really good insulation. It's a mineral that's got a high R value. So mechanical items that we test during our inspection would be things like the furnace, the air conditioner, weather permitting, heat recovery ventilators, all of the appliances that come in the house, fireplaces, maybe pool equipment if the inspector knows what he's looking for, or almost anything, even sprinkler systems and things like that, if people want to know, maybe a central vac. So basically anything that's a mechanical device in the house, we try to test under normal operating conditions. We do a visual inspection, and you can't always tell, but let's say a furnace hasn't been well maintained, you take the cover plates off and it'll be dirty, the filters are dirty, maybe there's a lot of rust and things like that. Maybe with an air conditioner outside, the condenser fins are just full of dirt and debris, and you can then sort of get an idea whether things have been well maintained. And with a lot of the mechanical devices, things like furnaces, if somebody's had it serviced on a regular basis, you'll almost always see a tag from the contractor that was out that says, this is what I did and these are the dates that I did it, and that gives you a pretty good idea too. When we inspect plumbing fixtures in the house, we actually run all of the fixtures to check for signs of leakage, and we're checking really types of plumbing, and the types of plumbing that you may have installed in your house are different by era of the house. In a really old house, you could have galvanized or lead pipes, which are now an insurance issue. Most homes built from the 50s through the 1980s had copper plumbing distribution lines. Then we changed to a PEX. And there's a style of plastic plumbing, Kitec, that's a problem because in most cases uninsurable now. They had problems with the zinc lining that was in the Kitec plumbing. So you have to be able to identify what's Kitec and what's not Kitec, because I have a lot of people say, well, that's plastic piping and that's not allowed anymore. Whereas Kitec's a very specific type that was installed that has been recalled and now in most cases has to be replaced. With the electrical system, we look at the panel, whether it be a breaker panel or a fuse panel. We're looking at the size, the amperage for the house. We look at what type of wiring you've got. And again, depending on the era of the house, really old houses may have knob and tube wiring, maybe a series of ungrounded wiring. In the late 1960s to the late 1970s, a lot of houses had aluminum wiring, and there are issues with those types of installations that you have to be able to check to say, have they installed all of the fixtures right on the aluminum wiring? Because a lot of insurance companies, again, don't insure knob and tube anymore, or they'll want maybe an electrical safety authority inspection if there's aluminum wiring in your house. In most cases, an antiquated system, you don't have to replace it unless your insurance company tells you to. And often the insurance company is looking out for their best interest, not necessarily your best interest. So there may be actually nothing functionally wrong with what you've got. It's more that it's now an obsolete material and the insurance companies don't want to insure, for example, old galvanized plumbing. They're worried about leaks at the joints and things like that. So they want you to upgrade so that they're not going to cover a leak damage in your house. With things like asbestos, there's no requirement for you to remove asbestos, and if asbestos is in your house and undisturbed, it's not really a problem. And most homes built in the 1960s or earlier will have some type of asbestos there, and there's no need to panic because it exists everywhere in those types of homes. So it's knowing when you disturb it, you have to handle it properly. A small townhouse might be in the mid $300 range. You know, a big Century home might be $500. Sometimes you'll need a wet certification for a wood-burning appliance in an old home. That would be an additional charge. But I would think that most home inspections that you do are between the $400 and $500 range. Most inspection companies now use computerized software where we have templates set up based on this sort of type and size and age of the home so that we know in advance the type of things we're going to look for in that house. And you're going to get a printed copy of the report with photos of the roof, of the attic, of areas that you're not coming with me to document not only the conditions that exist, but any defects that we find during the inspection. And the report should cover all major areas of the home and should have a specific recommendation saying this is an issue that needs to be dealt with, this is a normal issue, this is a maintenance issue, or maybe this is a big issue that you should be concerned with. Home inspection is important because for either whether you're a homeowner or you're selling a home, knowledge is power. If you know the condition of your home and you know what's coming down the pipes at you, in most cases, small problems can be corrected when they're small. If you let things go too long, leaks, for example, basement problems, they get worse over time. So if you take care of the small things, then usually you can maintain your house and protect your investment.
Keep watching our social media feeds for this informative series of videos. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and find these videos on our Guest Homes website.
Thanks for being our guest. Until next time, everyone.